Okay, I apologize, I cannot attend this event, so I'd like to present my paper through a video. The topic of this presentation is looking at infrastructure investment, because huge infrastructure investment are needed in this region. However, we have to look at the impact of infrastructure investment into the region, and also kinds of infrastructures have different impact on the region. First, I think enhancing infrastructure investment has a huge macroeconomic impact that will create jobs into the region, and also industry can be well located along those infrastructure investment. And that will support the equitable growth if infrastructure investment can be distributed to many people for their investment. And competition will be enhanced by new infrastructure investment. New companies comes into the region. And of course, in order to construct infrastructure, we have to be very careful not to damage the environments. And not only physical infrastructures, but also soft infrastructures, including education, will be very important. Because production consists of three components. One is labor, private capital, and infrastructure investment. Those are the components of industry and economic performance. So the harnessing human capital development is also important. And when we look at aggregate demand side, exports and imports will enhance the aggregate demand. So building seamless connectivity will be another thing. And infrastructure investment, transparency of the performance, and also how the money be spent is another important thing. And in diagram, infrastructure investment will bring aggregate supply curve to the right, because production can be enhanced, and then private activities will also increase. But at the same time, investment and exports, imports, trade will enhance this aggregate demand. So ideally speaking, good infrastructure will bring both aggregate supply and aggregate demand curve, and economic growth will be achieved. And at the same time, rate of inflation is stabilized. And so if I summarize everything, economic infrastructure has a big impact on the region, bringing investment, and then bringing labor participation into that region, and that will enhance the economic growth. And I would like to look at the impact of the finance of these infrastructure investment. In order to construct infrastructure, how to finance those infrastructure is another important thing. There are 4 ways to finance those infrastructures. One is bringing taxpayers' money from current budget and then finance infrastructure. Second one is utilize domestic savings, such as postal savings, and then bring those money into infrastructure. And related finance is long-term funding, pension funds, and insurance companies' products. And those money can be utilized for infrastructure. And overseas investors' money can be also brought into infrastructure investment. However, too much emphasis on the first one, taxpayers' money, will damage the budget deficits. So if too much money is relied on current budget situations, then the deficits may increase. So each country has to accumulate their domestic savings and also introduce long-term finance, such as pension funds and insurance, will be important. However, overseas investors' money is also important to bring to the infrastructure. That can increase the governance of the infrastructure investment, and also transparency will become much more better. So there are all 4 combinations of infrastructure finance will be required. However, too much reliance on overseas investors' money will create a big problem and causes huge burden for the future generation. Next, I would like to look at the economic impact of infrastructure investment, first from macroeconomic side. This is the infrastructure investment of various regions in Japan. This is north, this is south. And left-hand side is 1990. Right-hand side is 2010. Then, if you compare these two diagrams, 1990s, 1 trillion yen infrastructure has much bigger impact compared to 2010. So impact of infrastructure investments are different from time to time. That is one. And in 1990s, in general, we have much more impact on infrastructure investment. Next, region by region. Same 1 trillion yen investment has different impact from region to region. This is the region where large city Tokyo is located. This is Osaka and Nagoya cities are located. But the northern part and the southern part of Japan are relatively small by the same unit of infrastructure investment. Why there are so much diversities in region to region? It depends on externality effect or indirect effect. Horizontal figure captures private capital divided by public capital. If this line is on the right-hand side, that means there are much more private capital compared to government capital. And these regions, private capital is less than public capital. And vertical axis measures marginal productivity of infrastructure investment. So it turns out these are the regions where large city has been located. And these are the northern island or southern island. Why so much difference? The infrastructure investment in this region had induced private activities into the region. Highway has been completed. Then many private companies come to the region. Then employment is created. Those are the indirect effect of infrastructure investment. The new construction of railway that will also bring private economic activities into the region and employment is created. So infrastructure itself is important, but at the same time, how it will influence private economic activities are also important in order to maintain productivity of infrastructure investment. This is a case of Thailand. In 1970s and 1980s, agricultural sector had been benefited by infrastructure investment. But after 1990s, 2000, much more impact has given to manufacturing industries. So from country to country, the impact of infrastructure will be different, and the sectors which had been affected are also different. Next part, I would like to talk about microeconomic-based impact of infrastructure investment. I would like to look at 4 examples. First one is Philippines highway. And this is a highway in the Philippines. Whether this new highway has positive impact or not. And we have looked at the difference in difference method. And whether those regions has an infrastructure investment has a positive impact or not. And we have looked at the following figures. First, this is a business tax, and then property tax, and fees and of those highways. Then it is very interesting. Business tax, all the regions along the highway has a positive impact. And of course, fee revenues has been increased. And property tax revenues, certain regions has positive impact. In these results, I think business companies has been coming to the new highway, and then they have been benefited significantly. Next is how long will it take that private activities can be positively influenced? T0 is the period where infrastructure investment was completed. Then it took 3 or 4 years. This impact has become very, very significant. If we look at T-2 is a period where construction hasn't started. But after T+3 and T+4, third year, fourth year, the regional production had been increased almost twice. So in this Philippines case, new road had a big impact after 3 or 4 years because private business activities had been positively influenced. Next, I would like to look at Uzbekistan's railway case. In this railway case, is slightly different from highway case. All the regions by railway had been positively impacted. However, the 2 terminal stations had been much more affected by these railways. So in highways case in Manila, all the regions had been positively affected. But in railway case, 2 terminal stations had been much more impact compared to others. Next example is the Tibetan Railway from Gordmut to Lhasa. In this example, as you can see, there are no private businesses along these railways. So as far as private economic activities are concerned, there aren't so much significant impact on these railways so far. Of course, if time passes, and then much more private activities and tourism will come to the region, then it will turn out significantly positive. But so far, the completion of this Tibet Railway has not have shown much positive impact. So it is very important to induce private activities into the region. And fourth example is Japan's bullet train. This was completed in the southern island. And this result is very interesting. Originally, this bullet train was in the limited sections. But when this railway has been connected with large cities, then the impact became significant. So in the first 3-4 years, the regional impact was not so high. But when the connectivity has been created, then from 2011, 2013, there is a strong positive impacts by completion of bullet train because tourists came into the region and also the new economic private companies came into the region. And it is very important to bring to these constructions overseas money or private sector money. Private investors are always looking for rate of return. So the good performance of infrastructure will achieve higher rate of return. But at the same time, the operating company should receive much more bonus for those workers. That will create a good incentive mechanism for those companies in order to make railways, highways much more used. So 2 things are important. Private sector money should be brought in. At the same time, bonus system for the employees in the operating company, railway and highway, will also enhance the productivity of those infrastructures. So bonus payment for employees who run infrastructures and indirect effect, such as private company and tourism, and Thailand cases, agriculture, those have been positively affected. And last one is about local infrastructures. So far, I was talking about big infrastructure, such as highway or railways. But local infrastructure, such as wind power, this is a solar power. And these are financed by hometown investment trust funds. They are not coming from big institutional investors. So local infrastructures can be financed by hometown investment trust funds, which have been collected by individuals. This is another example. This is a new railway train in Japan. And many small shops wanted to have to open their businesses. These are noodle shops, a bread bakery, and so on. They have difficulty to borrow money from banks. And many individuals in the region invested for 100 to 300 US dollar. And about 150 people put their money into these small businesses. So the new railway had been completed. Then private sector activities of private businesses started to open. So those money is not coming from institutional investors, but it comes from regional funding. And that can create employment and jobs into the region. I think that's all my presentation. And it is very important to construct good infrastructure, but the purpose of the infrastructure is increase the economic activities into the region. So that is one important thing. And secondly, even the small businesses wants to do their own business along those highways, railways, and so on. Then hometown investment trust funds and so local community funding will be important to enhance their productivity. And thank you very much.